And then I also had a part-time job. And my part-time job was, in hindsight, beautifully placed for that moment of my life, because not too far from my grandma's place was the Brisbane Broncos Rugby League club, which is akin to, say, the Chelsea FC football club and stadium. And if you're looking at, say, London, or the Manchester United one if you're from Manchester. And so I went in there, and I was working part-time, just from everything from glassy to, bartender to whatever, waiter, just a couple of nights a week, and then usually on a Saturday and Sunday night for a few hours. And when I was there, I got to know the founding members, the BOD, of the Brisbane Broncos Rugby Club. And one of those individuals was a fellow called Paul Morgan. And Paul Morgan, he had an idea one day. He was a stockbroker, a successful fellow, to start a rugby league team. So he just, cold knocked on the Rupert Murdoch front door of the newspaper of Brisbane called the Courier Mail, pitched him his idea to start a rugby club in Brisbane, and Murdoch bought it. And he actually gave him a little tiny room in his newspaper office in Brisbane, and he set up what was called Pacific Sports Entertainment. And in there, he set up and kicked off the Brisbane Broncos Rugby Club, one of the most successful rugby league clubs in the history of Australian rugby league, and as well as a basketball team and also a baseball team. He had three things going. So he was kind of like a mentor to me, in that you can do more than one thing at one time, But I got to know him. He was a larrikin, and he in a way, it was wonderful to get to meet him there. And then I also got to meet a fellow called John Rebo, who started off as an electrician by qualification, and then he ended up, when I met him, he was the general manager of the Brisbane Broncos Rugby Club. And he'd played for Australia in rugby league as fullback for Manly and Sydney. He was in the 1982 Kangaroo Legends Tour of England, and he was an absolute gentleman as well. And he stayed a friend right through to today, which is remarkable. And the thing is, when I was there, now and again, Paul Morgan would say, "How are you going with your study? Have you finished yet?" And all this type of stuff. And he goes, "You don't want to go work in Sydney. They're all sharks walking around on the dry land and all this." He was just having, I think, somewhat serious way to try to get me to think, you can start in Brisbane. Hey, if I started in Brisbane, you can too. So we had a very good relationship, and I was graduated 3 weeks after I graduated. He gave me a start, and he said, "You can sit there next to this fellow. He's our head of the department, head of the trading room." And I sat there next to him for about 6 months, and I learned a lot from him, and then everyone around me. And back then, we had to write a buy order on a blue piece of tear-off paper and hand it physically to the trader, the DTR guy, who would input on the keyboard alone, no one else, your order. And then a pink one for a sell. And our signatures on all the stockbrokers, instead of writing your full name or signature, it rapidly dumbed down to just like a scrawled S for me, so they knew my trades coming through. And we would collect all these books of buys and sells, masses of books, put them in cardboard boxes. And that was not that long ago. And so that's how I got a start there. I also, at the time, because I could see the membership build of the Brisbane Broncos members, they a home game that have 20,000 people, 30,000 people, 35, 40,000 people. So one day I just said to Mr. Paul Morgan, I said, "Paul, we should be presenting to the members at their club about securities, mutual funds, bonds and things of this type. And he goes, well, you do it. You know, he goes, great idea, you do it. And so there was little me, and they have a members magazine, and very high quality, like a glossy magazine, and that would go to members every quarter, and or even by every couple of months after a period of time. And I ended up writing a full page investment column that would be in there with my face. And then I'd have people from listed companies. They would come into the ballroom, and we had it very diligently organized for like the last Thursday of each month or whatever, similar to, say, the British Chamber of Commerce social networking get together for the members, in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. And we would have free entry into the ballroom. If you're a member, you can come in for free, but you buy your own food and beverage at the bar. And we used to pack that out very quickly. And I had, after a very short period of time, people that I still remember to this day. A fellow was called Jim Goldberg, and Jim Goldberg was the founding CFO of Flight Centre Limited, which is the largest listed travel booker and hotel and cruise booker, listed on the Australian Securities Exchange, multi-billion-dollar market cap company. And when I sent an email to Jim, I said, dear Jim, it's Steve. I work for Paul Morgan, the founder of the Brisbane Broncos Rugby League Club, and we are having this monthly idea of a C-suite expert founder to come and just communicate to our members, about their story, about their company in an informal way, and to see if they would like to, pop a line. And would you be interested? And he said, yeah, sure. It shows you, if you have a good message and you keep it short, and you let them know. And he knew that they had thousands of members. Said in the little email, we've currently got over 10,000 members, and many of them travel, many of them have discretionary income, and many of them would be highly interested potentially to buy your shares. And so yeah, he came along, and he didn't have a slide deck or anything. He just sat we had it at the stage, and he there was a chair for him to sit on, but he was so cool, and he just like spoke, and he said how his family started. They had a pub. He was the son of a publican in a pretty rough part of Brisbane called Fortitude Valley, and he said he used to do their accounting, and then he hooked up with all these other people. One of them was a vet by qualifications called Graham Turner, who's now one of the richest people in Queensland, and one of the wealthiest Australians. And they, along with about 4 or 5 other people, 6 founders in total, founded this company, Flight Centre. So we had the honor of having Jim Goldberg there talk about the company. And he was one of our very first speakers. And then I had Lisa Herwood. I still remember her name. She was a director of KPMG, because I thought, well, I'm the broker. It's good to have someone who's from a top tier accountancy practice if someone asks a question that's accountancy related. And then I also saw that the Broncos, through reading their financial statements and reports, the lawyer that they had on retainer was called Phillips Fox. So I asked Paul the next day, and he goes, you've been reading our FS. And he goes, well, that's Scott Keddy. Ask Scott, don't ask the other guy, because he's the partner and he won't come. And so I asked Scott, and he was an up-and-coming non-partner. And so he came to some events as well. But it was me leading, managing, driving, and delivering. So they would come and go. I think in the first year, they came and went probably about 4 times each. So about once every 3 months. It was great.